how you been, man? How's things?
Oh, yeah, still recovering.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Got a
mate.
heart monitor. I got a heart monitor on at the moment until tomorrow,
Yeah,
because I just want to make sure everything's working all right. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, mate. Oh, you're a tough man. You're a tough
Yeah.
man.
Well, two heart attacks I've had.
Yeah.
I had one 3 years ago, and then one on New Year's Eve.
Oh,
So
jeez.
plus the mini strokes that I had last year.
Yeah. That condition that you have is it's pretty serious. My mum has that same condition, and she's
Yeah.
been stable for over a decade with the right medication. It's too risky to operate. They operated with you, didn't they? They put a stent in there.
I put 3 stents in my brain and one on my heart, or in the artery
Yeah.
attached to the heart.
Oh, mate. Well, you're looking good, mate. All things
Man.
considered.
Thanks,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. So what's I messaged you about this a couple of days ago about the latest shooting, and
Yeah, and I was in the middle of I had a radio show that night, so
yeah,
and radio shows, man, I am absolutely exhausted.
yeah, I know. By the end of them, and did you say you knock off at midnight, don't you? That's pretty late.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a radio show Wednesday nights and Saturday nights
Wow.
from 9 till 12.
Nice, and that's a good gig, man. Nice. You know,
That's a good
I saw a video on dash cams on YouTube, and a lot of these people that witness accidents, they listen to the radio, and
Yeah.
I saw a few comments at the bottom, and I saw a number of people. They were like, I can't believe, people are still listening to the radio, and they were like shaking their head emoji. And I'm thinking, how do you think all the personalities in Australia that are on the radio, why do you think they're multimillionaires? Like Kyle and Jackie O, the rest of them, like radio is still fucking massive.
It is. It is.
I
It's huge.
mean, don't get me wrong, podcasts and all that, there's a different way of, digesting stuff now. But radio, I mean, broadcast radio, make no mistake about it, it's still right up there with network television and cable TV and everything else. Yeah.
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 Well, I broadcast to our radio station because it's an online radio station.
Oh, nice.
It broadcasts to America, Canada,
Wow, there you go.
UK, New Zealand,
There you
and
go.
Australia.
And that's an amazing reach. I mean, a lot of these radio stations, they do go global now. You get much more people listening in, and yeah, sometimes they can chuck it on just a local radio as well. But a lot of people don't chuck it on their actual radio. They just go online and listen to the stream. The times have just changed. I mean, I grew up in the 90s, and others grew up in the 70s. But even in the 90s, for me, we didn't have a lot of stuff. Walkmans, Discmans, internet pretty much didn't exist until the late 90s with dial-up for me. So I guess I'm a little bit of a dinosaur as well. But yeah, today we have it all, man. We honestly do. We have too much. And sometimes that can be a problem, and other times that can also be very beneficial. But yeah, too much information at our fingertips. So, yeah, man, I didn't want to stress you out with this topic, but I think we should address it a tiny bit since I've got you. What do you think about that latest?
I agree. I mean, it's one that I think a lot of us Australians just do not understand why America are so.
Yeah.
We need to protect our guns. It's our right to have guns. But when you consider the fact that kids' lives are putting at risk.
Yeah.
And we're talking little kids. We're not talking teenagers all the time. We're talking little kids a lot of the time.
Yeah, yeah.
It just makes no sense to me. It makes no sense. Why put guns before kids?
Yeah, like that mass shooting at the Christian school. Those kids that perished, that was just heartbreaking. And just recently, the one with the bank. It was a co-worker, just decided, to go nuts one day and... There's one every week, Brenton. I'm reading one every week, almost. I mean, statistically, there's one every week. Now, we don't hear about them every week because then everyone would be depressed as hell. But a lot of times, it's hard not to report it because there's so many casualties, you know?
Well, America just has to release their, they have to understand that they can no longer live by a misunderstood amendment to their constitution.
That's right.
They completely misunderstand everything.
Yeah.
They put in there, they say, it says we have the right to bear arms. It doesn't. It says you have the right to bear arms against a tyrannical government.
Yeah.
A school is not a tyrannical government.
Yeah. And you have a right, and you have a right to defend yourself. But owning 15 guns in your house of every caliber, I don't think that's defending yourself. I think that's just you being a dick and wanting to have that many guns to collect. People openly admit they collect them. But hold on, when we're bearing arms, are we meant to be collectors of guns? Are we meant to go to, gun ranges? Are we meant to have it as a sport where we shoot things all over the place?
No, I can understand them going to a gun range for a sport.
Sure.
I can understand them getting in, going out and hunting food.
Yeah. Even though I'm a vegetarian, but I know how it used to be back then. So,
or,
correct.
Or pest control, such as
that's a fair call.
But I don't understand why. I mean,
they use the bare arms argument, and the stuff that I see them do recreationally with it, and also just in general, just for fun. Anyone can own a gun. That doesn't sound like they're using that amendment, wisely. No. And the NRA, they're the devil incarnate. You saw the president, and he was like, well, we should, do something about these guns. He's the president. Can't he do something about it? But really, he himself answers to the fucking NRA. NRA is evil, man. They're a whole fucking other level of... They're like the Illuminati, mate, the NRA, except you can see them. The Illuminati, you can't see them. Do we know they exist? The NRA, you can definitely see them.
But the NRA and all that, they don't realise that you can have gun control and...
Of course. You can regulate it, but they don't want to have a bar of it.
We did here.
Yeah.
Back in, what was it, 96 or something? When
the Martin Bryant.
Martin Bryant went nuts and killed 36 people or whatever it was down at Port Arthur.
Yeah.
Including 2 little kids.
Yeah.
And, John Howard brought in a gun amnesty thing. You had to surrender. It was shotguns and semi-automatic rifles.
Yeah.
The only way you could have those sort of guns was if you were a farmer and you had you had pest control.
Yeah.
And and you had to have special permits for it.
Yeah.
And no one said, "Oh, you can't take our guns away. We own these." The government bought them back from them. They paid them for the guns and said, "Look, we'll give you the money. You give us the guns. You don't need these guns anymore." We haven't had a mass shooting in Australia since 1996 or whatever it was.
Since then. Yeah, since then we haven't had any mass shooting at all.
30 years. Before that, we had 13 in a small space of time. We haven't had a single mass shooting since.
And you know why no one decided to rebel against that decision? Because it was common sense, Brenton. Something that Americans don't have at all.
No, Americans don't have common sense. I would hate to be a parent in America. I would hate to be a parent in America. I've got 3 kids.
Yeah.
My eldest is 30. My middle one is 28, almost 20, should be 29 in August, and my youngest is almost 3. I would, I would hate, as everyone would, but to send them to school and have something happen at the school.
Yeah.
We don't have that issue here, and we are actually a country that was founded through, penal colonies. Why haven't we gone on a mass slaughter? We haven't.
Exactly.
Because we're smart.
Yep, spot on. Those poor kids at the Christian school, and thankfully they took the person down, but a couple of kids did pass away, and I'd hate to be those parents,
It absolutely destroys me every time I hear of anything about mass shootings, especially in schools and especially young kids.
Same.
I had a look a year or two ago at the number of shootings, and I couldn't complete my list. I was trying to do a list of all the people, the numbers of mass shootings. Now, mass shooting is anything more than 4 victims.
Yeah, there was so many you couldn't even list them.
The youngest kid who ever took a gun to school and killed someone was 6 years old.
Yeah.
How the hell did a 6-year-old get a gun?
Yeah, and there's too many.
Seriously.
There's so many. It's crazy.
It doesn't make sense. 6 years old.
Yeah, it's nuts.
My son's almost 3, so twice his age. Right now, he's just into Spider-Man.
Yeah. It's scary.
There's no way he would ever contemplate that.
Yeah, it's very scary.
But what goes? I don't understand how how a kid that age could even get hold of a gun.
Yeah, very, very strange.
What were the parents doing? They left the gun out. I mean, it's got to be locked up.
Even at the age of 6, they can pick up a lot. Literally speaking as well. I mean, they could find a gun somewhere that the dad's irresponsible with, and they can, decide to play with it. And next thing you know, boom, it goes off. Yeah. For some people, it's not even an accident. They know what they're doing and they go to school with it. I mean, you just said yourself, a 6-year-old went to, his school. That's kindergarten, at that age. Or prep. Probably kindergarten. So that's nuts. And they do nothing about it, Yeah. It's bonkers. Do you ever think they're going to do something about it, Brenton? Maybe in 2025, 2026, 27?
Maybe when the government realises that they can actually get funding for their campaigns from someone besides the NRA.
Yeah.
Maybe if one of these politicians turns around and says, you know what, we have to change the way we get our funding. We cannot support the NRA, and we cannot take bribes. Let's call them bribes.
Yeah, that's what they are. Yeah.
We cannot take bribes from the NRA anymore because it is putting our kids at risk. When a politician's child gets murdered, that's when they're going to make changes.
It's such a hypocritical...
When it affects them directly,
correct.
That's when they will change it.
It's such a hypocritical world because you got, Joe Biden, and he's like, let's do something about these guns. But the NRA is lining all their pockets at the same time. It's like
exactly
double standards.
Exactly. It's just crazy stuff.
It's insane. But another very good point that I've got to point out is in Japan you're allowed to have guns, and the crime rate in terms of shootings in Japan is next to zero. It's next to none. You got other places where you can... Now, I don't think you can conceal carry, but you can have guns. If someone wants to rip it out of his house illegally, they can. But you can own a gun. It's more or less the same. All these countries, pretty much zero. America has so many gun crimes and mass shootings. So really, shouldn't they realize we're just fucked as a society in America? We are just fucking, the lights are on but no one's home. Shouldn't we just ban it? Because it's definitely the guns that play a role. But it's not just the guns. It's also the people holding the guns. And they themselves have made that argument. It's the people holding the gun. It's not the gun. Well, you know what? Yous are all fucked. So, to your point, Ban them already. And, you know, a lot of people have said to me, oh, you know, I've read in comments, you know, they're replying to me, being, you know, the wise man. They're like, I've had a gun and it's been, you know, placed away, you know, or it's been put, you know, to the side, and that's never killed anyone. Well, I debunked that in a fucking second, because I said, you know, I know people that have had their gun out on the front porch, you know, nicely tucked between their chair, their rocker chair where they sit down. All right. And that fell because the wind fucking pushed it. All right. The wind pushed the rocker chair, you know, which pushed the shotgun. It landed and it fired, and it didn't kill anyone, but it could have. And that's a true story. So they're telling me guns don't kill, it's people that kill. Well, last time I checked, guns can kill, because there's such, you know, a thing as accidents. And then they're going to tell you accidents don't exist. They need to get rid of the bloody guns. But they don't listen. You know. Any sort of gun is dangerous, whether a person, you know, fiddles with it or not. You know, guns are just, yeah. Only police should have guns.
It's a 230-year-old document that is so far outdated.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, does the Constitution mention having slaves? Because they used to have the right to own slaves.
Yeah, yeah. That obviously changed, but the gun one didn't change. I think it's whatever they feel like doing. You know, I think they want to have their guns and they need an excuse to have them. So it's not so much as a right as it is, you know, an excuse to have them.
Yeah. No, it's crazy shit, man. And I am sick and tired of America going, oh, but we have the right. No, you have the right to bear arms against a tyrannical government. Yeah. When a government turns around and starts dictating to you to do the wrong thing, then you can go and shoot the government. But I'm sorry, the government has tanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your machine gun is not going to do anything against a tank.
Exactly.
So it's now null and void.
It is. It actually is. That's right. Unless we have tanks, you know, what are we going to do? That's correct.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't see it going very well unless someone really steps up and does something about it. I don't think there'll ever be enough. I don't think there'll ever be enough murders. Unfortunately,
it's a bad one. It's been going on since at least the 70s. The earliest one I can remember is the one where the girl was sitting opposite the school on a Monday morning as the kids were walking past, and she was primary school kids, little elementary school kids as they call them in America, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We're talking, you know, we'd say prep or pre-primary. We'd be saying, you know, 5 and 6 year old kid going to school,
kindergarten.
And this girl sat opposite and started shooting kids at random. Killed a teacher and a headmaster, something like that.
Yeah.
Killed a couple of kids. Her excuse was she didn't like Mondays.
Yeah, that's crazy.
A girl who was given a gun for Christmas from her father went and killed kids because she was bored. She hated Mondays.
That's crazy.
You know? And then you had Columbine, which I saw the footage of Columbine recently. It was atrocious. Those kids went through, those two teenagers went through and wiped out so many people. They set bombs around the school as well.
That's nuts.
And then instead of being arrested, they shot themselves. You know?
They brought out such a good film, Bowling for Columbine. Such a good film.
I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it. But,
I think it's over 20 years old at this point. Pretty sure it is.
Would be, because it was. I know that
probably 25 years old.
I know it came out. It was in the video store because I was store manager for Blockbuster before I ran my own video store.
Yeah.
And I left Blockbuster in 2008. We had Bowling for Columbine in the video store there, but I never watched it.
Yeah. It's a great film, and it depicts everything clearly and what the government needed to do then and still now. It's been 25 years, Brenton. They haven't done a single thing, mate.
It's a Michael Moore.
Yep.
Is it Michael Moore?
Yep. He's great.
it's one of his documentary things.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it, but I might see if I can find it
And
online.
they were as ignorant then as they are now, Brenton. Nothing has changed. What happens in the next 25? What happens at 2050? Will we get to 2050 and still have this fucking catastrophe going on? I don't think much is going to change. I hope it does, but I don't know. That's why I love. I used to, stay in LA, and I used to really like America. I wouldn't say love it. No one loves America, but I used to like it a lot, especially for the filming. The shows and films. You wouldn't catch me dead going back to America unless it's for a role. I just stay in Canada. It's a neighboring country. If I do have any sort of business, I can just bus it to America. I can train it. It's a 40-minute flight. It takes longer to go from Melbourne to Sydney than it does to go from country to country there. So that's what I do now. I don't want to have anything to do in America. Living there, getting to know people there, nothing, because people are just fucked.
Yeah.
Canadians are the opposite. Canadians are great. Have you heard how they say they hold the door from like a mile away for you? Oh, here you go. I'll just hold it, open for you. That's how Canadians are. Americans are just, they're just on a whole other level. Really bad.
It just, breaks my heart every time. I'm very sensitive when it comes to anything to do with kids. Stuff happens to kids, and I get very upset.
Yeah.
Because kids are innocent.
We all do. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Kids are absolutely innocent. My paternal instincts basically kicked in when I was 12, and my youngest brother was born.
Yeah.
And since then I've been very sensitive towards anything happening to kids, and I will fight for kids.
Yeah.
I will fight for kids.
Same.
I've got the cutest son, and everyone has said that he's absolutely
and he's growing. Oh man, they grow so quick. He's growing.
I know, but he is.
I've seen all the lovely photos of you guys, out on trips. It's just lovely.
Yeah. Well, he's an adorable little kid, and he's just full of love. I cannot imagine anything happening to him at all. It would totally destroy me.
Thankfully, we live in a country where there's a lot more sane people and a sane government, and we don't have the NRA here.
Yeah.
We're so lucky to live in Australia, Brenton. We're so lucky, and a lot of people don't realise that. We're so lucky to be in Australia. I've gone around the world a little bit, and there's no place like Australia.
We still have capital crimes. We still have.
We do.
We still have murder, first degree, second degree murder.
We got gangland killings. We got everything, but not to the extent America does. No. And not just with guns, with everything: rape, murder, crazy people on the street, protests. I mean, we get a whole bunch of people and go outside a building to stick it to, Dan Andrews. Over there, they light fucking shit on fire and they throw it in. They got cocktails, they got fucking, and they got guns. They got guns, They go out there, with their guns. Heck, a couple of years ago, they were storming the fucking building, that massive building thing. And, one lady got shot and killed. America's a whole other beast. Do you think that Americans will ever wake up? Do you think Americans will all get together and say, you know what, we should stick it to the NRA once and for all? Something needs to be done.
I'd like to think that it will happen, but unless they come up with, unless they, like I said, they realise that they don't actually need NRA's money. Because NRA will fund both of them, so they just have, if they don't have NRA's money, then they can get money elsewhere. Maybe they need to raise taxes on other things in order to pay for bills, but I don't know.
And you know what the weird thing is, Brenton? you know, we'll talk about the government waking up and talking to the NRA, people, you know, in suits, you know, in the offices. But it would have been awesome if we can get a whole bunch of others together that can say, it's about time that we all wake up. But you know what I realised? The only people that have a voice are the people that don't own guns. People that own guns, every single solitary person that owns any sort of firearm, even if they barely use it, they've just got a license and they go to a shooting range twice a year, they will always back guns. You'll never hear them say, look, enough is enough. So I don't see it happening. I hope it does happen, because I think when not just the government, when the people itself, because it hasn't been done yet, when the people itself all get together, at least a quarter, maybe even half, then we can start get the ball rolling at, you know, potentially regulating them. They're never going to ban them, and I don't think they need to, as long as they regulate it a great deal.
They have to regulate it. They have to start doing mandatory psychiatric tests, whatever.
Correct.
It is and all the rest of it. They have to have a period where, yes, you can apply for your gun, and you have to wait so many weeks or something for it to be allowed.
And I think concealed carry should only be by the police or the security guards that are armed guards, because we don't need concealed carry.
In America, you might be able to get a gun straight away. It's within an hour you've got a gun.
Ridiculous. Yeah, you know? I know. It's ridiculous. It's crazy.
You know, and it's crazy.
Yep.
Absolutely crazy.
That's bonkers. It's bonkers. They need to do more about that. It's actually quicker to legally go in, all right, and get checked out and get a gun legally. It's quicker to do that than it is to get one off the truck hot. It's quicker to get it legally than it is to get it illegally. It takes longer to get a gun illegally. And that's a fact. I've looked that up. So, yeah. What do you do?
It's just, you know, I mean, the incidences, I mean, it's all innocent people going to school, going to concerts, going to movie theatres, going to church, minding their own business, enjoying themselves, learning whatever, and someone gets a high-powered gun. And they're high-powered.
I know.
The gun
what for?
you don't need. Who's going to come at you if you're protecting your home?
Yeah.
Who the hell's coming at you with body armor like Iron Man? You're going to need a gun that's going to with armor-piercing bullets. Really?
There's people with AK-47s. You don't use AK-47s to hunt for anything, and you don't use AK-47s to shoot targets. If you shot an AK-47, the amount of bullets that would fly out in a second, you'd go flying. You'd do backflips. So there's no reason to have an AK-47 aside to be a collector or to go and do fucking mass shootings. Or if the military has it.
Join the military.
Yeah. Yeah. Brenton, it was lovely having you on. I was going to ask you, how's the acting going and the directing and producing and all that, the theatre?
I've put acting on hold for the last 12 months. Well, your listeners may not know, but I had last year in March last year.
It would have been March.
I had a series of minor strokes, and I didn't know what they were, but because, you know, my body would just stop. My legs, I couldn't move my leg.
You'd go numb.
And I didn't know what they were, but because it wasn't constant, I'd start feeling better again. I kind of initially ignored them, but they would happen, you know, every few days, whatever, to the point where one stage I said, no, I've got to go and get this checked out. So I went to a hospital. They wanted me to go to see a GP and get a referral for
a neurologist, because they normally
they wanted a referral want me to get a referral for CAT scans and MRIs.
Yeah.
And now this was on a Friday. Now my GP wasn't going to be open until the Monday.
Yeah.
on the Sunday, I was doing some filming for a friend of mine who had a stage play happening, and I had to do a promo video for it.
Yeah.
And I was standing there, and all of a sudden, I just could not move. I couldn't talk. I couldn't move at all.
Oh, man.
My whole body was shutting down.
Whew.
And as soon as I was able to, I made it to the hospital. And I said to the hospital, I said, right, you are doing this CAT scan right now. I cannot wait until tomorrow. You're doing a CAT scan. You're doing it. Whatever test you have to do. They did the test, and they said, oh, yeah, you've got, you're having mini strokes, TIAs or something, I think they call it. But what was happening was you've got two arteries at the back of your neck that lead to your brain.
And one of them was blocked completely.
Well, one was narrow, and the other one had a blockage, had a blood clot, and they sent me to Royal Perth Hospital. Now, Royal Perth Hospital put me on medication, and they monitored my medication. I was in there for 8 days.
Yeah.
They monitored my medication. They were doing blood tests and everything. They were doing all these tests. And they said, look, it's not getting any smaller, but it's not getting any bigger.
Yeah.
Stay on your medication, which I did.
Medication helps a lot. Mum's been on for a decade, and it's kept her stable. It really has.
A month later, I started having problems with my vision. My eyes would separate. So it was like I don't know if physically my eyes were separating or if it was just my brain doing it. But basically, my right eye would look right, my left eye would look left. Double vision, but it was really bad double vision. I'd have vision where, at one stage, one eye was looking up, one eye was looking down. This was horrible. And then I'd have what I called the tumbles, and that was horrible. That was nauseating. It was like sitting in a clothes dryer.
And they say that when you cop a mini stroke, straight away you have to go get a head scan, and just to make sure there's nothing, like there's no leakage or anything like that, because you can have an even bigger stroke within 24 hours. That's the window. Once you have a mini stroke, you got to really go and get a head scan, because within 24 hours, you can have an even bigger stroke. If it passes 24 hours and you don't have a bigger one, or if they can detect anything beforehand, then you're fine. But it's because my mum has had them a few times. My mum's had them a few times, the mini strokes, and sometimes she hasn't realised she's had them. She sort of has, but she's brushed it off. And our specialist, who's a really good specialist, really good, Brenton, he told us off. It's like, next time, please come in straight away. Let them know your situation, and I'll get you in for a head scan straight away.
I'd gone to local hospital, and I said to him, I want to make sure I'm not having mini strokes. This is what's happening. Yeah. I had mini strokes about a month ago, and this is really messing me up. Something's wrong with my vision. Yeah. And they got me to walk, and they said, oh, no, you haven't got mini strokes. You're not showing any signs of it. What you've got is you're having vertigo. And I was like, are you 100% sure? Because if it's mini strokes, I don't want to go through that again. It was horrible. It was scary.
A lot of doctors, they're so arrogant and ignorant, all these doctors. Not all of them, but a great deal of them. And sometimes we've had to actually, say, look, check out my mum, or, what's going on. I don't know. There's a lot of negligence that goes on, and it's not right.
Well, 6 weeks later, because all I was doing was taking my medication, and I was like, okay, I have to deal with this. I take the medication, and it has slowed down or it has stopped. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's what it is. But 6 weeks later, the neurologist from when I was in hospital the first time, he called me up to do a follow-up phone call, just a checkup. And he was asking me how I was. And I said, look, is it common to have vertigo after mini strokes? And he asked me to describe it to him. And I did. He said, Brenton, get your ass into RPH hospital right now. You're having a mini stroke. You're not getting vertigo. I had 3 stents put in my brain. My left artery is completely blocked. There's nothing they can do there. It's so blocked they can't fix
Yeah.
it.
Same with Mum.
The right artery was blocked, but what they did was they drilled through the plaque, and it was a very challenging, very risky situation.
It's an extremely risky operation. Okay, so our specialist said with Mum, if she wanted to go through with it, one of my mum's arteries is like about halfway blocked, not even halfway. By the time that artery, which is the good artery, by the time that artery goes to 100% blocked, Mum will live to be 130. So she doesn't have to worry about the artery that's still not bad. Because, yeah, by the time it fills up, yeah, she's fine there. The other one was completely blocked. But there's still blood running from the back as well. You get blood running in from the back of the neck, so she's always getting that blood supply. But the blood thinning really helps. The medication helps a great deal. But they said to us at the time, look, the specialist goes, you're better off, staying with the medication. Now, he was a specialist. He wasn't a specialist and surgeon. We got a second opinion from someone 10 years later that was a specialist and surgeon. And they said 10 years ago, had you come to me, we probably could have operated and cleared out the entire thing. Because the other guy was just a specialist, just studied theory, and he did it very well. Because he was just a specialist and not a surgeon, he didn't have that surgeon background where he can give extra, insight. So he just goes, stay on the meds, and that's it. Had he been a surgeon, we probably could have gone through with it then. But now, 10 years later, the second guy said, no, we just can't right now. We could have then, we can't now.
Yeah.
But the surgery, if it's done, because it's so high, it's all the way blocked, and because it's 100% blocked, well, it's 99 point. This is the thing with Mum. She's one of the rare people where when it blocks, it's 99.9% blocked. That 0.1%, something can still fly from the crack, and it can hit her in the brain and cause another mini stroke. If it was completely blocked, if it's 100% blocked, nothing is coming through and shooting up. So ironically, if you are going to have a blocked artery, you want it absolutely, completely blocked because nothing can shoot through.
Although that also means that oxygen's not getting through because you're not getting any blood flow.
On that side at all, but you got it on the other side. Because the thing is, if only a little...
That's my problem, because my left side was completely blocked. Okay. The right eye was only letting a little bit of blood through.
Because with one side, if it's even a little bit unblocked, if you got a blocked artery 99% and it's that 1% that's unblocked, shit can still get through. I mean, obviously blood supply can get through because that's what you need, but it's not the kind of blood supply you want because it's restricted. When someone puts you in a sleeper hold and puts you to sleep, when you put them in a sleeper hold, they're all over the place. You're restricting blood flow to the brain. You're not restricting it completely because you've got them in a chokehold, but you're restricting like 70%, 80% of it. And that's how they can have an episode. They can have so when it's not 100% blocked, even a small little crack can actually ironically be worse for you than if it's completely blocked. It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard, but a lot of people have said this. It's one of the rare cases. Normally it's completely. But from the other side, the medication helps a lot. They can't operate because they have to get really close to the brain, really close to one of the main, So if it was less blocked, if it was 60% blocked, they got to go in lower, so it's safer. So they couldn't operate. But even if they do operate, they say it's 98% success rate. That's what they say. Yeah. There's a 2% chance you're going to have a stroke on the table. And that's what the specialist kept saying to me. And me being, so hopeful for Mum getting some sort of cure for this, I said, well, look, can't we just operate? The chances are 98%. They're pretty good in our favour. And then he brought up a really good point. He goes, yeah, but there's a 2% chance that she could have a stroke. She's fine with the meds. Why do you want to, even with a 98% success rate, why do you want to risk? He goes to me, would you risk 2% on someone you love? There's a 2% risk. Would you risk that 2% when you can just take the medication? And honestly, on my mum, I wouldn't risk 1%. I wouldn't risk 0. I wouldn't risk nothing for Mum. So we decided to stick with the meds. But it was a tough choice because she can be a ticking time bomb. Anyone can be when it comes to that, But apparently it's a lot safer. I think we educated everyone on stenosis tonight.
Yeah.
All right. Take it easy, brother. We'll talk again soon. We'll touch base.
Yeah, we'll catch up when I'm over there in June.
Absolutely, we'll do. We'll have a sit down, live podcast. That'd be great.
Yeah, I think you owe me a beer.
I do. I owe you a couple. I owe you a pint. Heck, I owe you a jug. All right, mate. Take it easy, and I'll talk to you soon. See you, brother.
See ya.
Ciao.
Bye.